Welcome back, everybody. Comics and Cold Ones, episode 17. So, I'm your host, JP, of course. And as always, our co-host this evening is Mr. Pope Grammy.
What's up, comic book community? You guys are awesome. Welcome to the show, guys.
And with us tonight, you guys may know him. You may recognize the name. He's written a few books in his day. Welcome to the show, Mr. Cullen Bunn. Thank you for being here.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
Sweet. So I'll just kind of start off. I want to talk a little bit about your YouTube channel, Missouri Swagger, that you do with Dennis Hopeless.
Yes. Arch enemy Dennis Hopeless.
Arch enemy, yes. Do you guys compete for jobs, throw down elbows?
Yeah, sometimes, we have to. It gets pretty dirty there in the trenches, having to really go after the other person. But so we built up a rivalry over the years, I guess. That's just a joke. Dennis is one of my best friends in comics. And yeah, we started this YouTube channel. I think we just did episode 9. We're just really getting our feet under us right now. We are not ready. It's like we're not quite ready to do this, but we also knew that if we waited until we were ready, we would never do it. So we just decided to just throw it out there. Problems, technical difficulties, bad mics, all of it just out on the, out there and see what happens with it. And we'll slowly get better. And once we get to a point where we feel comfortable, we'll do what we consider our grand launch. But right now it's just, it's building up to it all.
We know the struggles. The struggle is real. Our adventure started out as a joke in a live chat. We were just like, we're just fucking around. We're like, hey, we should do our own show, right? And then here we are. And yeah, we've done all kinds of stuff with the technical difficulties and all that.
Yeah, well, like I said, we've been talking about doing this for probably a year, and there are episodes that we have recorded in the past that we thought were just too bad to show, or either we talked about topics that we decided, you know what, probably best if we don't air this. If we want to continue working, we should probably just not show these topics, and just getting a lot of it out of the way. So finally we got to a point where we'll try it. I mean, it's fun. So far we're having fun with it, and I do think we're slowly getting better.
And that's a huge part, man. Like the best part is like just have fun with it, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we had the aid of the great legend. So thank you, great legend, if you're watching or will be watching, because he helped us on our first show.
That's his name, the great legend.
Great legend. Yes.
I thought you were going to name someone, the great legend, so and so. No, it's just great legend. All right. Well, I guess if you got the great legend. All right.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, he's a G in the YouTube community, and he helped us with he helped us set up, he helped us make our links and stuff so we could get things popping right.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he helped us out a great big deal.
You can find people like that. That's an amazing connection.
He's a good dude, man. So really quick, I'm just kind of go through the chat and give some quick shout outs if you don't mind.
Sure.
We got Tacoma Comics was here earlier. Brandon Stawinski, Miss Hustle, of course, with the power of the blue wrench, keeping things on lockdown. Comics with Bueller, welcome.
Got Cat Wren.
Yeah, I see Cat Wren popping in there. Thomas Churchill popped in tonight. Good to see you.
Got TJ Watson.
And Comics Misexplained, our good friend Jason. Oh, Hazel Dan's in the chat as well. So lots of people out there already tonight. Good to see you all. Have you and Cullen, have you and Dennis thought about doing anything live, or is that too risky with you guys?
No, we've talked about it quite a bit. The reason we haven't done it yet is because we maybe it's simple, I don't know, but we just don't know how to do it. So
okay. Well,
eventually we will do something live, I'm sure.
And if you ever need tech support, you now have connections because we learned from the great legend.
I don't know how I can do anything without the assistance of the great legend at this point.
He's been a great friend to us for sure, and then more than us, he's a big figure in the community, so it's cool. So tonight I'm going to start off. What I'm drinking tonight, I have a Breckenridge Brewery. It's a vanilla porter. I have some all new beers tonight for those who pay attention to my beer drinking habits. Last week I tried a new beer, kind of went south on me. So this week I'm trying a few new brews. So what are you drinking there, Mr. Sean?
I am drinking Oktoberfest. Big surprise. That's probably one of my all-time favorite beers. So while it's in season, I'm gonna guzzle it up as much as I can. So for the next couple shows, you're probably gonna see me drinking the Oktoberfest.
I'll just assume that's what you're drinking. I'll stop asking. And what about you, Cullen? What are you drinking tonight?
I'm not drinking a beer. I feel like I have let you guys down right off the bat.
No way, man.
I made myself an old fashioned before I came on here. So it's an old fashioned with Buffalo Trace and a little bit of simple syrup, some water, a bunch of different kinds of bitters, and some Luxador cherries. So there you go.
Damn, that sounds like a party in the mouth.
It's all right. It's
our good friend.
It's an old man's drink.
What's that?
It's an old man's drink. So
I've never had one, so I'm gonna have to adventure out and try that. I'm getting old now, so it's time for me to change my ways.
Wayne wants to know what's the guy behind Cullen drinking.
Whatever he had, you don't want it.
Yeah, he was testing out all the different things I might want to drink. So that's just how he ended up.
Catherine Figures, of course, she's drinking Tito's tonight, as usual. So we were chatting. I've decided to put together some kind of I don't know what we're gonna do, some kind of live Halloween party next month on YouTube. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Play dress up.
That's a good idea.
Drink, because I think at this point in my life I've accepted all my friends are online, so this is where we're at in life.
I'm gonna go mobile and trick or treat while we talk about comic books.
Yeah, we'll just do live trick or treating. That might be more.
I don't know. Last year, maybe it was 2 years ago on Halloween. Because we take my son out trick or treating, no one's at our house, so we pull a wagon along and we give candy and comic books to people we meet on the street. And I've done that for years in our previous community, and now in this community, they did not. They didn't know how to take that. They were pretty startled every time we'd say, "Hey guys, here's some free candy and comic books."
That's pretty awesome, though, man. I wish my kids would have had that exposure. Here, it's all like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a go to the door kind of guy. That isn't my cup of tea.
You know what? I don't mind doing it, but I if I've got the opportunity to go out and see people dressed up, see the different houses all decorated, I want to see it. I got to see everything.
Yeah, last week or last Friday, I went to one of those Spirit mega store type things.
Yeah,
I've never been to one before. I'm like, holy shit! Like they have some stuff that would terrify me, and I live in the dark. Like I don't even have a street light where I live out here in the sticks. So I'm like, if I had that in my yard, it would terrify the whole neighborhood. It'd be amazing, but I would probably get arrested too, knowing this community.
Yeah, we had one of our friends came over the other day, and they had their little daughter with them, and she walked in here into my office, and she said, "Cullen, why are you decorating for Halloween so early?" And I said, "Well, I'm not decorating for Halloween. This is pretty much how it looks. That skeleton sits over there all the time." So
you're like, every day is Halloween.
That's right. It should be.
So we do have one question already from the chat for you.
All right, let's do it.
Pope Cerebus I would like to know about Unsound. It says the book was crazy great, emphasis on crazy.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, Pope Cerebus. Don't any of you guys have friends with real names, grown-up names? No, I appreciate that.
How many poops are in the YouTube world?
Yeah, The Unsound was a book I was pretty excited. You know, I'm pretty proud of. I'm still excited about. It's such a weird. It was such a weird series. You know, for those that aren't familiar with it, it's a basically it starts out as a the the beginning. It seems to be a story of this young nurse who gets a job at what appears to be a haunted insane asylum, but then it just gets weirder and weirder and stranger, and it kind of builds into its own little mythology, and introduces this whole this whole world that is all encapsulated in this one limited series. Right now, it's still just it was just that series. You know, I talked to the editors at Boom, and it has been collected, so so it's available. You can read it all in the collection. I talked to my editors at Boom about maybe returning to it. They're interested. It's just a matter of seeing, when the time is right to do that.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Like for you, I mean, you write. I mean, I know you say you don't write enough, but you've written a ton of books, and I got out of comics kind of similar with Sean. I was a big hiatus for me in comics, and I can't remember exactly. 2010 maybe is when I got back into comics probably 2012 full time. Again, I just ordered because I got behind on the single issues. I just had to order the collected editions of Harrow County because
Sure.
that is, I mean, truly one of my favorite horror comics. Period.
Well, thank you.
And that's how your name became a name in my world. Is that book, and then I started seeing all these different things, and then of course Deadpool. You were writing. Well, you did. I know you did. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again, right?
Yes.
Yep. And then a bunch of other Deadpool titles before that, I would assume.
Yeah, I've been writing. I wrote. I think I counted them up. I've written like 60 something issues worth of Deadpool stuff, and
Wow.
it all started with a book called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, and that was sort of my big intro to Deadpool. And I've written several miniseries since then. And yeah, I did Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe again, and then most recently I did one called Deadpool Assassin, which was I'm not 100% sure. I never say never, but I think that was probably my last foray into the world of Deadpool.
Oh, sad, man. Yeah, I guess I'll drink to that too.
Who knows though? Again, never say never. It's not like anyone ever told me, "Hey, this is your last Deadpool book." It just it feels like I was, if you get to a point, maybe sometimes it feels like I feel like I'm, this is it. This is the swan song. But I can say that now, and then in a month I might be writing another series. So who knows?
Sure. Yeah, I understand how it works a little bit. So my friend Melissa says, "Boom, real name." So there's that.
Hello, Melissa.
Who is this person? That's really awesome. I do like the that you did also one of my a mini series of one of my favorite Sith, and so I love the Darth Maul series that you did. I thought that was probably one of like the best like mini Sith stories you could tell, like because we never knew much about Darth Maul because he was always like the silent, Sith Lord, and but I like how you intertwined how Palpatine like was manipulating him the whole time. I thought that was just a really, really good story, man.
Yeah, so, that was a fun book. It was my first Star Wars comic, and I love Star Wars since I was a kid. I mean, I was diehard Star Wars as a kid. That was my favorite thing. And so yeah, when they called me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing a Star Wars book about Darth Maul?" I was like, "You bet I would," because Darth Maul, hands down, was the most interesting thing about the Phantom Menace.
Oh yeah, that absolutely.
And I just felt like he definitely deserved a little more page time, and so I was super excited to do it. It was a lot of fun for me.
Oh yeah, because I mean, like, I just can't imagine. That's awesome that they called you and asked you if you wanted to do that. Because I mean, I would like pretty much like walk around with a boner all day. If someone's like, "Hey, you want to write? You want to write a story about Darth Maul?" I'm like, "Hell yes, I do."
Yeah,
I got a lot. I got a lot of shit to say about that guy.
Yeah, it's a surreal feeling, having, for years and years trying to get jobs in comics and get someone to pay attention. It's still a surreal moment for me anytime I get a call and they say, "Hey, would you be interested in doing, this character?" And it's a character that I follow and that I love, and because I love comics. So it's still really it's surreal and exciting, and I have to keep the inner fanboy in check to some degree on a lot of those things.
I was gonna say, like, I was about to say, how much free reign did they give you, like, with that character? Did they have like a set like time era that they wanted you to deal with, or were they just
with that book? The big thing was it had to take place before Phantom Menace.
okay?
That was really the rule. That was the if I was going to say there was any like hard and fast rule, it had to take place before Phantom Menace. And so, but beyond that, when I went into it, I expected it to be super, like a whole lot of heavy-handed rules and a lot of guidance. But Lucasfilm was really awesome to work with. It was never a matter of them saying, you absolutely cannot do these things. It was more about them saying, yeah, this is a cool idea. Could you, maybe they suggested, there's a world that there was when at the beginning of that series we see Darth Maul encountering Rathtars, and they suggested the world that might take place on, and it's a world that was referenced in this case just in one of the Star Wars Lego games, but they wanted to kind of pull all that around, pull all that back together. So really it was mainly about them offering suggestions about planets things could be taking place on, or certain ships that might be seen in the background, and things that could help tie it into the bigger universe. So it was it was very collaborative, and it was never I've worked on plenty of licensed properties that have been really heavy-handed, but Star Wars was not one of them.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool.
We got a couple questions
go ahead.
in the chat if you haven't seen it yet. Stay Puff 1983, because real names. Would want to know, what were you thinking?
Oh boy,
making rotten corpses into drugs in Bone Parish.
That's a good segue into Bone Parish.
It's hard to say what I was thinking. I'm just very, very messed up. So one of my, hold on one second, someone's sneaking in. You can come in. One of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories is The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. And in that story, they are Charles Dexter Ward uses what he calls essential salts to help bring the dead back to life. And the essential salts are really the components of dead bodies. And that's really the inspiration for that story was, what if those dead bodies were used as some sort of hallucinogenic?
I'm excited to get my copy, and one of the guys from the community hooked me up with a copy, so I'm excited to get that.
Yeah, it's it's an exciting book for me, because I really do think it's I'm proud of a lot of my books. I can't say every book I write is a winner, but the ones I'm proud of, I'm not going to be shy about it. And I think Bone Parish is one of my best books. So I'm real happy the way it turned out. I'm excited that we're doing a full 12-issue run on it. So we've got a big story ahead of us for it. So it's a book I think people really, if they haven't tried it yet, it's definitely a book they should try.
Then Catherine Figures wants to know if you could pick any character that you've never worked with before, who would it be, like a dream character?
There's so many of these characters that I would love to write, and it's tough because to say a character I've never worked on before, because there's a lot of times where I've worked cameos or short, small appearances on these characters. But I've always wanted to do any of the Marvel or DC horror characters. So, Man Thing, Dr. Druid, Hellstorm, Ghost Rider, Etrigan the Demon, Swamp Thing. I might have written small appearances of those characters, but to really dig into one of them, that's something I've always wanted to do. And I gotta be honest, I have no idea why Marvel and DC have never tapped me to write one of those horror characters.
You'd be perfect for Justice League Dark.
It's and that's not against anyone who's written them. I just don't know. Look, I kind of feel like I have a strength at writing, the dark side of things.
Yeah.
And I definitely think I have something to say in that arena. So, but I just, I don't know. A lot of my most popular Marvel and DC stuff focuses on the darker characters. So you'd think that they would, if they're going to give those horror characters a shot, that they might think, consider me. Let me enter a bake-off with the other writers of what I would do. We'll see. Who knows?
So for those who don't know what a bake-off is, if you check out their latest episode over on Cullen's YouTube channel, I put a link in the description so you guys can just click on it over there, subscribe. I learned what a bake-off was watching that episode. So
yeah, they're nightmarish. They're horrible. But
so there's kind of a question around that from Pope Cerebus the First. He says, "Do you claim superiority over other writers? Is there like a pecking order? Do you smack talk other writers like Jeff Lemire and Donny Cates for not writing many titles?" Obviously, question.
Claim superiority is absolutely, I do not. It's just, that's just not the way it works for me. I mean, and hold on one second. Come here, bud. All right, good night. I'll see you.
I love you.
I love you too, buddy. Thanks.
So glad it's not just my life. That's why I had to keep pausing and stepping out. My 3-year-old was like, "I want a
hug." That's my kid. Squish Bun. He is today, and it's I got to go ahead and put a shout out. Today is the 9-year anniversary. We adopted him from China 9 years ago today. So
congratulations, that's awesome.
He absolutely gets interview interruption privileges. So.
Oh, absolutely, man. Like I said, we're low key. We know I've had plenty of kids interruptions with my life, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, but no, I don't think of myself. I definitely don't think of myself as superior to other writers. Now smack talking, maybe there's a lot of that goes on, but it's usually very good natured. That's why you'll often hear me say things about Dennis Hopeless being a monster or Jeff Lemire being an awful human being. It's because these people are my friends, and I'm just, that's what we do. We talk bad about each other.
Yeah, that's what friends do.
That's what really
years ago, Jeff Lemire and I were having dinner somewhere, and we just decided it would be funny to start a Twitter feud between the two of us. So sitting across from each other at the table, we just started writing horrible, mean things about each other. And people took it very seriously. They thought that we were really hating, we really hated each other. And Jeff even started a hashtag called Marvel Fire Bun, and all these people started retweeting Marvel Fire Bun. And you'll still see, there's oftentimes Jeff will tweet about something and he'll just hashtag it Marvel Fire Bun for no reason whatsoever. So yeah, there's a lot of smack talking and good natured ribbing between creators. But yeah, I don't think anybody really thinks of themselves as superior to. I take it back. There are some people who definitely think of themselves as superior to others, but most of us are not in that.
They're not in your circle, is what you're saying.
No, they are not in my circle. Those who think they are superior quickly divest themselves of Cullen Bunn. They get away very quickly.
So, Rob Wise Guy 82 said that Harrow County is what he got back into comics for.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's like 3 marks for Harrow County. So I'm going to ask a question before I read anything else. I've been thinking about this. So Harrow County was optioned, right?
Yes.
At some point, it was optioned for a TV show, Netflix.
It is in development right now as a TV show. Yeah.
Okay. Is it
speculation?
so how does that work for you? As I mean, do you have creative input? Do you have any like? You're like, no, I just take the check and I'm good.
It's different. It's different for every project. I have worked on, I've worked on comics that have been adapted that I had no creative input whatsoever. I've worked on projects that they've kept me in the loop much more than they really needed to. There's it depends on the contract and when the papers are signed and what your agents negotiate. Sometimes they negotiate you in as producers or you consultants or even writing, pieces of whatever it is, TV show, movie, whatever. Say that again.
Some camo appearances.
Yeah, they may negotiate in the cameos. But there have been times where none of that was negotiated for me. But the producers and directors kept us very involved because they just wanted us to have a say. And then there are other ones where I'm contractually very involved. So it all depends on the individual project. With Harrow County, I've been kept very very involved in it. I'm trying to think of how much I'm allowed to say about Harrow County right now. But they have definitely kept me involved in Harrow County.
So you're telling us that Harrow County is going to happen, right? That's what.
Well, hold on. Now you're getting into some that's some dangerous territory when it comes to adaptations. I can say that people are trying to make it happen, but it's also tentative. It could all fall apart at any point. I mean, I've had many projects that never got past the option stage. The Sixth Gun, the book I did with Oni Press, they filmed a pilot for it, but the pilot didn't get picked up. It didn't get picked up as a series, so it can fall apart at any time. And that's really the nature of adaptations and Hollywood. And it's why I focus more on comics, because I know that I'm going to be able to tell these stories. And with Harrow County or with the Sixth Gun, regardless of if the TV show or movie or whatever happens or not, I'll still have the comic, and that's the comic's always there. So sometimes you just can't. Years ago, I used to get very obsessive about it, like calling every day. Is it happening yet? Have they greenlit it yet? Is it going? Is it going? Nowadays, I kind of just have to be like a twig upon the shoulders of a mighty stream, and just go with it.
Like for me, I'm a big horror fan in general. I love the horror comics. I predominantly buy horror comics. That's just kind of my thing. I like, with Netflix doing the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina next month. I'm so freaking stoked for that. And I know that they're not really similar, but like the whole Harrow Counties is something I need to see in film, whether it's Netflix or something to that effect. And I'm just, it's just one of those things that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they have very talented, very smart people working on it.
That's good.
Sometimes that's not enough, but I'm definitely keeping my fingers crossed on it. And I can tell you that the network that's involved, Sci-Fi Channel or Sci-Fi is involved with it. They are definitely fans of Harrow County, and they want to see something happen. It's just a matter of making sure, although there are so many pieces that have to fit together perfectly for it to finally tip.
Well, they're starting to kind of dig into comic world as well, right? Because didn't Sci-Fi, are they the ones doing the Deadly Class?
They are, yeah. So
I freaking got cable just for that damn show. So another one of those things I like. But really quick, there's a question from Niobe Comic. Just so you know, Niobe.
The great legend is in the chat.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow. Hello, great legend. Are we supposed to make offerings of some kind?
Just a tip of the beer. This is for you, legend.
Thank you, legend.
Speaking of beers, guys, I'm on to number 2. This is going to be a Imperial Milk Stout from Temptress. It's a coconut Temptress. I've had the other Temptress. I really like it. So we'll see how coconut tastes. Not too bad. Way better than last week's coconut beer I had at the bar. That was terrible.
You take like the Girl Scout cookie.
Yeah, she lied to me. She was trying to sell me a beer. That's all she wanted. Here's your $9 beer, sir, that tastes nothing like a Girl Scout cookie. So our friend Larry Higgins, he's a writer. He's an indie writer, Niobe Comic. He does a Kickstarter. I think he's done 4 books. He kind of wants to know a little bit about getting to the next level. How do you promote yourself, or tactics used to kind of I mean, he's had pretty good success with the Kickstarter thing.
Well, and it all depends on what the goal is, I guess. It's there are certain people who just want to do independent stuff. They just want to be indie, and they don't care about making money. Nothing wrong with that. Do it. There are certain people who just want to do their own thing, indie stuff, but they want to try to make money at it too. Again, do it. And then there are people who want to do indie stuff and stuff for like the big 2. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a completely noble endeavor. And then there are people who just want to do work for, say, Marvel or DC or things like that. And so it all depends on the kind of thing you're trying to accomplish. I would tend to say that the way to reach that next level, whether it's just getting more eyes on the work or reaching editors or in working at Marvel and DC, is to just continue doing your own thing. If you've had success on these Kickstarters, keep promoting those, keep talking about those, keep getting those out there. Try to get other people to talk about them, other people to read them, and share their love of that, and just keep keep making that stuff work. But that's the most important thing, I think, is to always be producing something, and you can get those books in the hands of editors. If you want to work for another publisher, you can get those books in the hands of editors at those publishing outfits. You can send them PDFs. You can meet them at conventions and hand them copies. And sometimes it feels like you're just handing your work away for nothing, and because sometimes you are. But just keep doing that, and it just the more you produce, and if it speaks to who you are as a creator, and it reflects, if there's honesty in it and who you are as a creator, then that's going to readers will notice it, readers will respect it, but editors will notice it, editors will respect it, and they'll reach out. That's how I got in with Marvel and DC. Is I did independent work. I did a book called The Damned. I did a book called The Tooth, and then I did a book called The Sixth Gun, all with Oni Press. And editors found those books, and they reached out to me and offered me work. An editor at DC reached out and offered me a 4-issue arc of a series, and it was all because he read The Sixth Gun and enjoyed it. But I would say, keep producing, keep networking. If you can go to conventions, talk to other creators, talk to, don't, we mentioned earlier, if you thought you were superior to another writer, and, don't be afraid to network just with other creators, people who maybe at the same level you are at right now. make sure you get those connections, you foster those connections, and it's not just from a perspective of what can you get me, real networking connections really form out of finding common ground and building friendships with these people, and those things will help you in the long run, I guarantee.
All right, well, good advice on that. Speaking of Oni Press, the great legend says that he loved The Dam, Six Gun, and Shadow Roads.
Thank you.
He and I actually converse a lot about Six Gun and Shadow Roads, because that's I'm just going back and getting Six Gun in the collected volumes now, because I started reading Shadow Roads because they had the free comic book day, of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is like westerns and horror all into my thing. This is like this is my holy grail right now. So, but yeah, so let's see what else we got here in the chat really quick. Rob said that Hellbreak was another one of his favorites. Any chance you'll get to revisit that universe?
I would say that there is a very good chance that I will get to revisit that universe. Hellbreak. Hellbreak is a book that I really, I really liked working on, but there were problems on the behind the scenes problems with it from the very beginning. And I used to, at one point I was telling my editors, this book is just cursed. There's something, this book is cursed. Everything's going wrong. But we talk about going back to it, revisiting Hellbreak. I think if we revisit it, it will probably be sort of a soft reboot of the series. Not saying the stuff that's come before doesn't matter, but probably relaunching the series in a way that readers who've never heard of it, and there are a lot of them, readers who've never heard of it could just get it right on and enjoy it from the beginning. So there's a lot of talk about it. I think there's a very good chance we will revisit it in the future.
Well, I know, because you do, I missed out on the Metro Kickstarter because I was just late to the party. I was moving, all this stuff, whatever. I know. It sucked. But you have, gosh, you've had so much announcements this week. I should have written them all down. But you got a new Kickstarter coming out, right?
I do. So we did the Kickstarter for Metro, which wrapped up, a few weeks back, and that book is in the middle of getting printed and shipped out. It'll soon be shipping out. The PDFs are going to be going out. But I'm launching a new Kickstarter in October, which is called it's for a book called A Passage in Black. Last year I did a collection of short stories, prose stories, that dates back to my very earliest works of fiction. And I was thinking about it, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we adapted those stories into, a comic book? So I talked to a bunch of different writers, a bunch of different artists, and there's a group of people who are adapting my stories into comic book form. And it's got a very it feels a lot like eerie or creepy magazines, old Warren magazines, and we're going to release this thing as a nice edition of I think it's got 12 stories in it, 13 stories that'll be coming out. Like I said, we'll be launching it in October, perfect time of the year for a horror anthology to be launching. I think it's got a lot of exciting new talent involved in it, and this is something that, if it's successful, my plan is to do one of these probably about once a year. Only next year it will not be adaptations of my stories. What I'll probably do is put a couple of my new stories by me in it, but then also look for writers and artists to bring short stories of their own creation into it, and it can become sort of a showcase of different talent and different ideas. So that's something that I've got my fingers crossed that this Kickstarter does well, because if it does, it will definitely lead into me doing this about once a year almost like an annual collection of new horror stories.
That'd be awesome. That'd be really awesome.
Well, you know, years ago, before I was ever doing anything in comics, I put out a small press magazine of horror short stories called Whispers from the Shattered Forum, because I really wanted a name that sounded, you know, ominous, I guess. But you know, we published 13 issues of that magazine, and I stand by. I mean, some of the people who were published in that magazine back then are now, you know, real names in horror fiction, and you know, and I enjoyed doing that. It was a lot of work, which is why I'm not still doing it. But maybe, you know, one anthology a year in comic book form, that might be fun to do.
I would definitely. I won't miss this Kickstarter.
Well, and for those people who did miss the Kickstarter of Metro, you can still pre-order Metro.
Oh.
Because if you go to our backer kit, and I can't remember the address for it right now, but if you, I think even if you go to the Kickstarter page, we have a link to our backer kit where you can order the book still.
Okay.
So if you missed Metro, which is a really cool book that I co-wrote with a guy named Brian Quinn, who was on a TV show called Impractical Jokers, and it illustrated by Walt Flanagan, who is on a TV show called Comic Book Man.
Yes, sir.
On AMC. Very talented artist. So we put this thing together, and that's where that was my first Kickstarter, was with those guys. And it's gonna be it's a dark book though. Don't buy that book for your kids, because it is not for your kids. We before we decided to go Kickstarter with it, we sent it to a number of editors, and several people were like, "Oh no, we can't publish this because it's got some it's messed up."
Hey, it sounds exciting already. I'll have to go order my copy tonight then.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I don't know why I like so much dark shit, man. I don't know what's wrong with me, but it's okay.
That's why we're friends, JP.
I know.
You're in good company, man. You know,
that guy right there in the chat, I want to be friends with him, and I want to do a show.
And here we are. So Rob asked, do you have any plans to do another book with Tyler Crook? He sees you guys as like a Brubaker Phillips caliber team.
What can I say about this? Yes. How's that? I'll just say a very enthusiastic yes.
Sweet. Oh my gosh. I'm so behind on the chat here. I don't know how the So I learned, like, from watching your videos with you and Dennis, that you're a big fan of English teachers.
You know, I am a big fan of English teachers. I am just not a big fan of most of the English teachers I had in high school. I had one very good English teacher who was very encouraging, who was really pushing me to write short stories, and that English teacher, I feel like, was awesome. And then she left the school and abandoned me to these horrible teachers that had no interest in really fostering a love of the language or writing. They were really just going through the motions. So in high school, no, I did not love my English teachers. Once I got into college, it was a whole different world. I loved all that, and I loved all my, I have a degree in creative writing, and I dealt with a lot of English teachers in college that did it right. But my 11th and 12th grade years were rough. If anyone could have turned me away from wanting to be a writer, it was those English teachers. And,
wow. It's kind of weird, because I mean, that's how, like, when I grew up in North Carolina too. And I only had one good English teacher that really taught me grammar, because most of my high school, it was just kind of like, read this, you know, and it was just kind of like, okay, but no one really taught us how to write essays or anything like that. But when I got into college, because I majored in English and theater, and when I got to college, a whole new world of creative writing opened up to me, and
Yeah.
like I loved it.
Yeah.
And
No. So I do love English teachers if they're good English teachers, but I have very little patience for a bad teacher. I think teachers are unsung heroes. I think that they don't get the due that they're that they deserve. And I even wanted to be a teacher. That's my original when I first went into college. One of my goals was to become a teacher. But I think I still think there's no room for bad teachers though. I mean I get it that it's a tough business and it's it's underappreciated because it absolutely is. But it's only the bad teachers aren't underappreciated. They're probably overappreciated even in their underappreciation. So it's underappreciated for the good teachers. Love a good teacher, no patience for a bad teacher.
I always see these teachers getting arrested for hooking up with their students, and I think, where were those teachers when I was in school? Damn it!
It's weird.
Funny, I was just about to say, "Hey, Tacoma's a teacher," and then I was like, "Oh, bad timing."
That's weird because I remember years ago there was our gym teacher. Everybody when I was in school had there's always these rumors that he was hooking up with the girls in school. And everyone's like, no, that's not true. That's not true. And then years later, after I was out of high school, there was like one of these talk shows, and this girl comes on. I'm like, I went to high school with her. And then they're like, and here's your husband. I was like, and that was our coach.
He made me run laps.
I was like, yes.
Well, it must be a Southern thing, maybe, because I had that.
Hey! Let's don't go with any stereotypes. Come on.
I grew up in the South. I can do this because
the
exact same thing happened, and they're still married. And I'm like everyone knew it, but no one wanted to talk about it really, other than just rumors. But it was just funny how like you found your love with an 8th grade student, and it lasted a lifetime. What
happened in my high school? They didn't get married. It was more like you opened up the janitor's closet because you were in trouble and you had to like go mop the hall or something. And you're like, "Mama, what's this?" Leverage.
Did not mean to interrupt.
I am certain that they never did anything until she was out of high school and was 18.
Absolutely certain. All right. Pope Cerebus I says he has a question about Moon Knight.
All right, let's do it.
How did you dovetail your run after Warren Ellis? Did you speak with him about anything going forward?
No. I believed going into that, because that book was sort of a surprise to me. And that they just called me and said, hey, we need you to write 5 issues of Moon Knight. And I was like, that's awesome, because the first thing I ever pitched to Marvel in an official capacity was a Moon Knight series. So I was a huge fan of the Ellis run of Moon Knight. Those 5 issues, I think, were the best superhero comics that came out that year. So I just wanted to do something in a similar vein, but with my own spin on it. So I just read and reread those issues and just decided to do. I wanted, it was important for me to do done-in-one stories because that was sort of the key of the Warren Ellis issues. And I wanted them to be weird. And I mentioned that the first thing I ever did for Marvel or pitched to Marvel was a Moon Knight series, and it was called The Macabre Moon Knight. And it was all these weird horror stories with Moon Knight at the center. And I said, well, since that didn't happen, this will be it. This will be my Macabre Moon Knight. This will be what it would be if I had ever gotten picked up. So I just started writing weird Moon Knight stories. And I really, I was really pleased with that series because done-in-one stories are hard to write. But I think I did a good job, and there's at least one of those issues that I go down, I would go down saying is one of my favorite issues of a comic ever. There's an issue, I can't remember which number it is, where Moon Knight finds this boogeyman figure that's haunting this little girl, and he has to go in and rescue this little girl from this boogeyman figure. And I love that. I'm I love that comic. I love everything that issue turned out to be. I'm really happy with.
How many copies do you own?
Nah, I own a few. Look, I keep an archive of everything, so I own at least a couple of it. But then, you know, I don't overdo it. You know, I got to get rid of these things.
Well, you know, that's I think from all the creators I've met and visited with, some of them get really pissed off that they don't get like copies of their books or, you know, things of that nature, and then others are like, no, I get too much stuff. So yeah, it's
I like getting copies of my books. I want at least one copy of everything. But it is true that my house is loaded with copies of books, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies of books, and sometimes that's a little it can get a little overwhelming.
So with this show coming up next weekend, you're going to be having a booth to sell instead of signing anything. You're like, look, you got to buy a book.
No, I'll still have my I have a table of stuff, and I'll have books to sell. I just did a show at a library. The library here in town does this library con, and it's crazy. I mean, they have thousands and thousands of people coming through the door for this convention.
Wow.
And this year what I did was I just brought a ton of books, a ton of copies of single issues, and just stacked them up on the table. And I was just like, they're free. Take it, you know, take copies. And it was awesome because people were grabbing copies, and this kid, I remember this kid picked up a book, and it's like an issue of Transformers or something like that I'd written. And he goes, he looks through a bunch of them, and he's rifling through all these books, and he says, is Batman in any of these? And I was like, no, don't think there's any Batman comics. And he just picks it, and he takes it, and he just tosses it back on the pile, and he starts walking off. And I watch him, I'm like, man. So I grabbed a copy of again, I think it was a Revolution or something like that, which was a Transformers G.I. Joe crossover. And I go, hey, man, I think Batman is in this one. And he just goes, oh, awesome. And he takes it and walks off.
I was
all
waiting
he
for you
cares about is if he can see Batman.
I was waiting for you to say, and then I gave him a copy of Metro.
No, yeah, right.
That'll teach him a lesson.
I love those kind of. One of my early conventions I went to with Matt Kent, who's a good friend of mine. And if you're not familiar with Matt Kent's work, he's an amazing creator. And we were at a convention, and this guy came over and said, asked if Matt was doing commissions. And Matt said, yeah, I'll do a free image for, I'll do a picture for you real quick. And the guy says, well, can you draw Spider-Man? And Matt says, well, I don't really draw a lot of superhero stuff. And he says, well, what do you draw? And Matt says, Matt had a book out right then called Super Spy. Again, an amazing book. And Matt says, well, I draw a lot of stories about spies. And the guy says, could you draw Spider-Man? I
was waiting for that.
Could you draw Spider-Man? And so that's probably been 10 years ago, or close to 10 years ago. It's still one of my favorite stories.
I got a Black Badge #1 in the mail today. That's a Matt Kent.
That's a good, that's an awesome book. It's that's his follow-up to Grass Kings, which was also an awesome book.
Yeah, like I said, I've been so out of the loop. Everyone in the community knows I've been waiting on books and waiting on books. I got a lot of reading to do. That's okay.
Well, yeah, my to-read pile is pretty insane. In fact, most of those books that are stacked on my shelf behind me are part of my to-read pile.
So you're going to start getting a lot of notifications of subs because the Great Legend was like, we need to sub up Cullen's channel.
Well, they should, and they should definitely subscribe. I did get a bunch. I don't know if they're subscribing to Missouri Swagger or my YouTube channel, but they should subscribe to Missouri Swagger because that's the really awesome one.
I put the Missouri Swagger link into the description, so that's what I put out there for them.
But thank you, Great Legend. You truly are great and a legend.
Tacoma has a question for you. He wants to know what books are you reading that excite you? What What books are you reading that you're really into right now?
Well, I like Black Badge. You just showed it a few seconds ago. I really like that book, and it's tough because I don't read a lot of books in single issues anymore.
Yeah, so
Most of the time I'm waiting for trades these days. But I do like Black Badge. I've been enjoying what Bendis is doing on Superman. I'm not a huge Superman fan, or I haven't been in years, but I've enjoyed the new issues. I think the new Justice League is a lot of fun. I read a lot of in trade. I'm reading a lot of Rick Remender stuff. I'm catching up on like Black Science and Deadly Class and Low. All of those books are books I still, I'm a slow reader right now, only because there's just so many books out there.
you get Tokyo Ghost. I recommend that.
Oh yeah, I've read, and that's one that it'll. I don't know how many trades are out of that now. I think I've read the first two.
Yeah.
I know I've read the first two. I don't know if there's any beyond that yet, but yeah. And then I do a lot of, I'm doing a lot of research reading right now. So I'm reading a lot of comics that are part of research for projects that have or haven't been announced.
Sure.
I've been reading a lot of old Vampirella magazines, and buying them.
Can you talk? I know you sent me a link earlier. Is that something we can talk about?
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Are you watching a certain horror movie?
I was, yeah. So yeah, a friend of mine, Blackie Shepherd, who's an artist that I've worked with on a few times now. Most recently on the Pumpkinhead miniseries. But Blackie Shepherd and I are going to be doing a book called Vampirella versus Reanimator. So it is, it's, and we're trying to capture the subversiveness of both of those properties, because, I remember reading Vampirella magazines at the drugstore when I was, sitting on the floor in the drugstore reading Vampirella magazines off the shelf when I probably shouldn't have been reading them.
I have a feeling that our childhood was very similar, except
right?
horror movies, man.
So, and then the same thing with, the Reanimator, definitely with the Lovecraft story. And then of course the movie stuff, it all felt very subversive to me, and like I was reading something or watching something I shouldn't be. And we're trying to capture that. So this is going to be a mini series where, Vampirella and Herbert West, are working at cross purposes and collide in a big way. So
yeah, I saw the covers and it looked really, really, really cool.
Yeah, some of those covers are pretty awesome. Well, actually, all of those covers are pretty awesome. It's an exciting book for me, because, like I said, I've loved Warren magazines. I've always been a fan of the old horror magazines, and just having the opportunity, even for a mini series, to write a Vampirella story, and then on the other side of things, Lovecraft has always been a huge influence for me. So doing a Reanimator story is kind of fun, and it shows a different. It's fun to be able to capture sort of the campiness and the weirdness and the horror elements of those two properties. And I think it's gonna be a fun book for readers.
Oh no, I'm totally into it, because like I was that high school kid that was like that had the Fangoria magazine and
oh yeah,
I was a big White Zombie fan, and
it's like we went to, it's like we were, we would have been best buds if we were. Fangoria is coming back, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they're going to be releasing a print magazine again, Fangoria.
He's not going to be Kickstarter.
No, I don't think it's a Kickstarter. It's just I think they're just opened up to subscriptions. I subscribed months ago, but the first issue of the new run comes out like in a couple of weeks, I think.
Is it going to be subscription only?
I think so. I'm not. I don't know. I've been hearing ads that say if you subscribe, you save so and so off the cover price. So maybe not just. I mean, it sounds like there's going to be ways to get it.
I don't have a freaking bookstore here, anyways.
Right. But I'm excited about it. Fangoria was the first. That was my first paid publication credit was in Fangoria magazine. So
really,
yeah. So it's kind of it's kind of nice on that perspective.
That's awesome.
And I have, you can't see them because they're over behind the skeleton over here. There's a huge magazine rack full of Fangorias and famous monsters and eerie and creepy magazine that's on a big giant spinner rack.
Nice. We should have made you do a freaking room tour. I changed my mind now.
No, I told you I didn't clean. I'm disguising the junk that's strategically piled in a Cullen-shaped pile behind me. So
I'm gonna come treat at your house, man.
Yeah, someone had mentioned earlier in the chat that they had read an article or a story about you taking those magazines when you go fishing or something.
Yeah, I used to when I was a kid. When my dad would go fishing on the creek, I would always go with him, and I would always take a stack of horror comics whenever I did that. And it was the only time I read horror comics at different times, but the only time I really vividly remember reading horror books is when I'd take this giant stack of horror comics and I'd sit them on the muddy bank, and I'd just sit on the bank reading because my dad was a big fisherman. I mean, we'd go out on the ocean, we'd go, rod and reel fishing, but when he went to the creek, he wanted to put cane poles in the creek and just sit on the bank. And I'd do that, but I'd also have a stack of old, House of Mystery and House of Secrets and Ghosts and all those magazines, and just read the heck out of them.
Sweet.
That would have been freaking epic.
And we also have a question from Four-Way Flashers, and he says, "Can you ask Mr. Bunn about his collection of bound books? Why does he do it?
Why? Why do you do this?
Why do you bound your books, man?"
So I don't have I was looking to see if I had one handy that I could just grab and show you what they look like, but I don't. They're in another room. So yeah, I take a lot of my old comics and I send them to a binder, and I have them bind them into hardcovers. And I get a lot of flack. I get flack from people who don't know why I would ever bind up my precious comics. But I'm not the only person who does it, by the way. I learned it from Matt Kent. He does it. There's a few of us who got into it as a hobby. Just it's for me, I still collect comics that get put in bags and boards. I do CGC books. I do trades. And then on the other side of things, I do bound books. And the binding is one of the things that has gotten me most excited about collecting comics again, because I can buy a set of comics, a run of books, and I can get them bound, and I put them on a shelf. And instead of putting them in a box that is stacked in a closet and I never get to read them again, here they are. I can pull it off a shelf and I can just read a run of comics. And I love it. It's just gotten me into reading these old comics. It's gotten me into buying old comics. And no, I don't do it for super, super valuable books. But I mean
9.8s and
no, I don't do that. But I've got some in there that are probably that other people would cringe to know that I would bind. But it's not like I'm going to sell them. I'm going to have them in a bound book, and I'll pass them on to my kid, and he can read them, or he can sell them.
He'll be looking at it saying, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks a lot."
Yeah, maybe he might be mad about it. But it's just one other side of what I enjoy collecting, and it's I like that they're on a shelf and I can just pull them off the shelf and read them. And yeah, I think I've got 50 or 60 bound books now. And I've got tons in the other room that are collections waiting to be bound up. I have a run, I've got a run of the old Marvel Treasuries the giant
Mhm.
treasury editions and DC's. I've got a complete run of both the DC and the Marvel treasuries, and I thought about getting those bound. And I keep going back and forth. Do I get them bound or do I not? And it's I don't know which way I'm leaning right now, because I think having a set of bound treasury editions might be amazing.
Like 400 pounds.
Yeah, it'd be massive.
That's your first live show.
Yeah, there you go.
It would be tough to, it'd be tough to manage. But I bind books that are never going to be collected, or probably aren't going to be collected, like Micronauts, which was my favorite series when I was a kid, and ROM. I've got big sets of, I've got full runs of those books that are probably not going to be collected. US1, who's going to collect US1 as a series? Me. I got it. I'm good.
I don't think
at least those number ones are at least going up in price now.
Maybe.
Speculation of like what is it, the Micronauts and the ROM. It's funny because I used to find those in dollar bins like all the time, and then all of a sudden someone like it's going to be a movie and you can't find those things anywhere.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of them. So I think I'm covered if ever there's a movie and I need to sell something, because I think I got a ton of Micronauts #1 around the house somewhere.
So I missed this earlier, but Gene Paul Ace Peter said that Helheim is one of his favorite comics of all time.
Oh, Helheim is awesome, man.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's
I was waiting for that title to be brought up, and then it kind of hit like the next 3 posts were all Helheim. So
yeah, Helheim's a book again. It's one I'm super excited. I was super excited about. We did 2 series on it that I did with Joel Jones, was the illustrator, and it's if you're not familiar with it, it's a Viking era Frankenstein story. It's about the best way I can explain it. And that's another one that I talk to my editors and publishers all the time about. When we're going to return and do. I've always had in my mind that Helheim was going to be a series of 3 mini-series. And we've got Helheim, and we've got Brides of Helheim, and then I've got one called Sons of Helheim. And Sons of Helheim's never come out yet. So that's the one that I would like to see next.
Now, but you're right, man. We need to get you into like one of those hot dark DC books. And
yeah,
it just come to my attention, that Constantine is ending or has just recently ended. But apparently they're doing like the whole Vertigo, bringing back like the old school, like Sandman and like Lucifer.
Yeah.
And Hellblazer was one of the original ones. Maybe that's where you need to come in. Maybe you need to bring back Constantine into an era that we can love and enjoy.
from
your mouth to DC's ears. It's
let's make it happen, community.
Constantine is for DC. Constantine is probably right at the top for me.
And like he's just such a good character. I mean, he's dark. He's got his fingers dipped in everybody's like soul pies, if you will.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, there's just a lot of good dark stories that could be told through Mr. Constantine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're my VIP for that run, man. It needs to happen.
Yeah, like I said, let's if anyone feels that way, let DC know, because I can only say it so many times.
What's the hashtag we use for that?
Constantine.
Yeah, hashtag Fire Bunn, DC Fire Bunn.
I guess it'd be Higher Bun, right? And so
right.
Yeah.
Someone, Rob, wants to know if we're going to do a big ass omnibus of Harrow County.
Yeah, there is a library edition that comes out. I thought it was in October, but I think it's actually early November. These big Harrow County library editions. There's some really cool hardcover editions of the book that will be coming out soon. That I think stores can order them now.
So did you get a chance to see Batman the Damned.
I didn't. Is this the one with Batman's
The first appearance of Batwing.
the Batwing? Yes. No, I haven't read it yet. It's funny. I was talking to someone who owns a comic shop, and they said they got a call, or I saw it on Twitter or something. They said, yeah, they got a call where the guy was like, "Do you have Batman the Damned #1?" And they said, "Yeah, we do." And he said, "Is this the one with Batman's dick in it?" And they're like, "Yes." And they're like, "Awesome, I'll be right there." I was like, all right.
It's as long as my finger. It comes off the page.
Well, it's Batman. Come on.
Well, exactly. What'd you expect? Next, he'll be showing up in his suit with a nice outline. Oh my God. Trying to see if there are any other questions I've missed. No, I think we're good. So what kind of projects you got coming up now? So you got the Vampirilla project. You got, gosh, I don't know. I have so many things. Bone Parish is going to be 12 issues, you said?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, who also wants to see the Batwing?
Who wants to see the Batwing? Are we doing this? John Holmes Batman?
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh my gosh.
There it is in all of its glory.
Ah, there, I can actually see it. Thank you. My life is better now.
It's in the shadows.
So I think we're at a good point to do a giveaway. You guys want to do a giveaway? I know Cullen has something he's going to give away tonight.
I do.
I'm actually going to give away a Cullen book as well. It's going to be the
it's the one you read and you're like, I can't take it anymore.
Basically, Brothers Dracul #1.
Awesome.
You're like, I don't even remember writing that, but
no, I do. I love that book.
Oh, it's funny as shit because right when I was done showing the Batwing, my computer popped up and said no viruses found.
So he's clean. He's got a clean bill of health. That's good.
Thank you, Batwing.
I guess Catwoman didn't have syphilis after all.
Oh my
God. I'm out. Goodbye, everyone. Good night.
Thank you for joining us.
Sorry. Anyway, so we're going to do a giveaway, and I will let Cullen show what he's giving away.
All right. So one of the things that has kept me busy and not reading comics lately is that I am co-promoting a convention here in Springfield, Missouri. The convention's called CaveCon. It is going to be next week, which is surreal to me that next week we are going to be hosting a huge comic book convention in Springfield, Missouri. And one of the things that we're doing for that convention is we did the first issue of my comic book Cold Spots. We did a CaveCon exclusive cover of the book. The cover is by Baltimore Rivas, who's one of the guests of the convention. And it is a book that is super limited in quantity. I think there are 500 of these printed, and that's it. And it's an exclusive to the show. So I'm going to give one of these away. It'll be signed, and I won't mail it out though until after the convention next week, and that way Baltimore will also have signed it. So it'll have Baltimore's signature on it and my signature on it.
Oh, damn, guys.
Maybe I should send you the copy of this Brothers Dracul so you can sign it and send it with that.
Yeah, send it on. I'll do that.
All right, cool. We'll do that. So really, just before I do the giveaway, I just want to say,
I'm going to send you my address so you can send me those books.
He's like,
I win.
Forget giveaway. We're taking this shit off air.
Okay, why did I do that? I just won.
So what do you want to do for a giveaway, Pope? You want to do something like the first person to say what page Batman's dick was on? Yeah. I'm just kidding. What do you want to do for giveaway? What do you got? You got any trivia tonight? You have any trivia, Cullen?
You didn't tell me to prepare trivia questions.
Dude, man, I suck at this. Everything I like wing everything when it comes to trivia. So
I got a question. or I guess a question I could ask for a prize.
It better be good the way you're building it up.
Oh shit! All right. So Mr. Bunn has written a particular book about a particular Sith. The first person to name the Sith that he wrote about wins the prize.
I know this one.
I do too. See, we might want to say that question again, this time in English.
The great legend said Darth Bajil.
That sounds like a win to me.
Darth Bajil.
That's awful. Come on.
I think he meant Maul.
I'm pretty sure he meant Maul.
Yes. Typo, and Sailor Jerry will do that to you. All right. You going to call it a win?
It sounds like a win.
You got to win. Boom.
Darth Maul. There it is.
Darth Maul. Winner, winner. Great Legend dinner. Cool.
The great Darth.
So you guys are going to let me know where I'm supposed to send this, right?
Yeah, I will. I'll get the information for you.
All right.
Of course. Yeah, you guys have any other questions you want to ask Mr. Cullen before we're done for this evening?
Yeah, Pope Cerebus, what has been the biggest revolutionary development in comics you've experienced, in your opinion?
Come on, man. I really feel like we're at a point now in comics where, a lot of people ask, how do you break into comics? And what can I do to make comics? And the true answer is there's nothing stopping you now. I think the era of the gatekeeper is kind of ending. Publishers, if you want to create a comic, you don't have to wait for an editor or a publisher to say, yes, I want to do that book. You can just, you can find an artist, you can write the book, write the book, find an artist, put it on Kickstarter. You can make it, or put it on an online comic. There's so many ways for you to get your book out there now that you don't have to. The thing I don't want to see people doing is creating pitch after pitch after pitch and sending them out and hoping someone's going to take that that property. What I really think people should be doing is create your own book. Create a book and put it out there. If it's a good book and people like it, people will respond to it. It's like what I was saying earlier. And I think really, Kickstarter has opened the door for so many aspiring creators, and is creating such a great opportunity for people. But not just Kickstarter, just the being able to publish your stuff online, or as a web comic, promoting it through social media. There's just so many opportunities now, and that's probably the biggest game changer, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think the time. I don't know. I think right now I think we live in like the perfect world of like comics and everything we get to have in the world of comics right now. So I think this definitely is not as it's a lot different than it used to be. So
yeah,
that's good. There was a question. Someone Niobe wanted to know about the all-female X-Men team that you wrote about. How did you pick? Did you get to pick the team, and why wasn't Magic on the team?
I didn't write the all-female X-Men.
Oh, well.
Ah, you're wrong. So right around the time, so years ago, I pitched to Marvel this idea for a book that became for a superhero team that was all women. And that book was I can't remember what that book was originally going to be called, but it eventually came out as Fearless Defenders. And after I pitched that book, it took forever for Marvel to finally greenlight it. So Fearless Defenders came out, and right after Fearless Defenders was greenlit and started getting was in production, Brian Wood was tapped to write an all-female X-Men team. So they came out right along right around the same time. This all-female X-Men team and the Fearless Defenders team. the Fearless Defenders team was better. It was a better book, and it was a lot more fun. So there you go. And there had to be some reason that Magic wasn't on Fearless Defenders, because I love the character Magic and would put her in every book I'm writing. But it seems like there's always something going on with her. Like there's always some plan or some reason that I can't write that character. So Magic is a big character I'd love to do something with. So
she's one of my favorites. I don't know if you can see behind me or not. I just got it on the wall. I'm gonna try it. This is a giant commission I got done of Magic.
Nice.
There's a big shitty glare there, unfortunately, but
It's right on her face too.
whatever. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite treasures, and the fact that they made, if they ever do the New Mutants movie as a horror film, yes, I was signed up for that.
Yeah, no, Magic's a favorite character of mine, but sadly, I did not write the all-female X-Men team. It just came out around the same time as Fearless Defenders was coming out.
Good to know. Now you guys know. You're welcome.
And if you haven't read Fearless Defenders, it's awesome. So you should read it.
All right, hold on one second here.
And Pope C says he has one last question. He says, please sum up the history of the universe in 3 words or less. P.S. He's drinking tonight.
3 words or less. The history of the universe. That's a question I don't think I'm qualified to answer. I don't know anything about the universe.
He said, please do Hellblazer and Swamp Thing.
Yes, now there's Hellblazer and Swamp Thing. There's 4 words for you.
That's why I said do like Hellblazer, man, because obviously Swamp Thing will make an appearance at some point in time.
That's right. He would.
That'd be awesome. Well, hey, do you have any more questions for him, Sean?
Oh no, man. I'm just grateful that you came onto our show, man. I know your time's very valuable. I really appreciate your work, and
thank you
for taking the time to come chat with us and drink.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, man. It's an honor, of course. I mean, I had the pleasure of meeting you last year in Omaha at the Krypton Comics for the Free Comic Book Day.
Oh yeah, that was a fun day.
Yeah, it was. Who was it? Superman. What was it? The Lois and Clark guy. Dean Cain.
Dean Cain. Yeah.
I was like, I'm here for Cullen Bunn. They're like, oh, you don't need to be in this line. Go over there. And it's like, oh, okay. It was way different than Dean Cain's line. Surprise. But anyways, it was an honor. You were that was when Regression was coming out. So yeah. But anyways, it's been an honor to have you on with us tonight. I appreciate your time and you just doing it with us, man. I appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Give me those addresses and where I need to send these things, and send that to me, and I'll get it taken care of for you. So.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. And everyone out there in the community, you guys stay safe. We will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.